In a small, dusty town nestled on the outskirts of a bustling city, life moved at a slower pace. The streets were lined with modest homes and tiny shops, their paint peeling from years of harsh sun and monsoon rains. Among these was a little garage tucked away in a quiet corner of the town. It wasn't much to look at, just a corrugated tin roof held up by wooden beams, with tools scattered across workbenches and oil stains marking the cracked concrete floor. But for Ravi, this humble space was his sanctuary, his livelihood, and the only thing standing between him and despair. Ravi was a man in his early 30s, lean and wiry from years of physical labor. His hands were calloused, perpetually stained with grease, and his face bore the lines of someone who had seen more than his share of hardship. Yet there was something about him that set him apart. A warmth in his smile, a sincerity in his eyes, and an unwavering commitment to doing what was right. Despite being born into poverty, Ravi had always believed in the power of hard work and kindness. These principles guided him through life, even when circumstances seemed insurmountable. Every day, Ravi would wake before dawn, helping his aging mother prepare breakfast for the family. His younger sister Priya was still in school, and it fell to Ravi to ensure she had everything she needed to succeed. Their father had passed away years ago, leaving behind debts that Ravi had spent most of his adult life paying off. Though the burden was heavy, Ravi never let it show. To those around him, he was the same cheerful, dependable mechanic who could fix anything, from a rattling engine to a broken bicycle chain, with nothing more than his trusty toolbox and determination. The garage was the heart of Ravi's world. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest work, and Ravi took pride in every job he completed. Locals trusted him because he didn't overcharge or cut corners. If someone came to him with a problem they couldn't afford to fix, Ravi would often offer creative solutions or payment plans, ensuring no one left stranded. This reputation for integrity earned him loyal customers, though not enough to lift him out of financial struggle. Still, Ravi dreamed of expanding his business someday, perhaps opening a proper repair shop with modern equipment and trained staff. For now, however, he focused on surviving each day as it came. One sweltering summer evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in hues of orange and purple, Ravi was closing up the garage. He wiped his hands on a rag and glanced at the clock mounted on the wall. It was nearly 8 o'clock. Most people in the town were already indoors, escaping the oppressive heat. Just as Ravi reached for the padlock to secure the gate, the distant rumble of an engine caught his attention. Squinting into the fading light, he saw a sleek black car approaching, its headlights cutting through the dust kicked up by the tires. As the vehicle drew closer, Ravi couldn't help but marvel at its design. It was unlike anything he'd ever seen in his town, a luxury sedan with gleaming chrome accents and polished rims. The kind of car that belonged to celebrities or wealthy businessmen, not the farmers and shopkeepers who frequented his garage. Curiosity mingled with apprehension as the car rolled to a stop outside his workshop. The driver stepped out, a tall, impeccably dressed man in his 50s. His tailored suit and leather shoes stood in stark contrast to Ravi's grease-stained overalls, yet there was a weariness in his expression that made him seem almost approachable. "Excuse me," the man said, his voice tinged with frustration. "My car broke down a few miles back. I managed to get it here, but it won't start again. Do you think you can take a look?" Ravi nodded without hesitation. "Of course, sir. Let me see what I can do." The man introduced himself as Arjun Mehta, a CEO from the city. He explained that he had been traveling to a nearby industrial estate to oversee a project when his car suddenly sputtered and died. With no cell phone signal and no other garages for miles, he had limped along until he spotted Ravi's workshop. As Ravi listened, he noticed the tension in Arjun's posture, the way his fingers tapped impatiently against his thigh, the slight furrow in his brow. Clearly, this was a man unaccustomed to such inconveniences. Without wasting another moment, Ravi grabbed his tools and got to work. The car's hood creaked open, revealing a labyrinth of wires and components far more advanced than anything Ravi typically dealt with. But he didn't let that intimidate him. Years of experience had taught him how to troubleshoot problems logically, piece by piece. Using a flashlight to illuminate the cramped engine bay, Ravi methodically inspected every connection, checking for loose wires, leaks, or signs of damage. Arjun watched silently, leaning against the car with his arms crossed. Occasionally, he asked questions, trying to understand what might have caused the breakdown. Ravi answered patiently, explaining things in simple terms. As they talked, Arjun learned about Ravi's life, the struggles of running a small business, the responsibility of caring for his family, and the dreams he harbored despite his circumstances. There was a quiet dignity in Ravi's words, a resilience that struck a chord deep within Arjun. Hours passed, and the temperature dropped as night settled in. Ravi worked tirelessly, his shirt soaked with sweat despite the cooling air. Finally, after replacing a faulty sensor and cleaning out a clogged fuel line, the engine roared back to life. Relief washed over Arjun's face as he climbed into the driver's seat and turned the key. The car purred smoothly, ready to hit the road once more. "You've done an incredible job," Arjun said, stepping out of the vehicle. "How much? Do I owe you?" Ravi shook his head. "No need, sir. I'm just glad I could help," Arjun insisted, pressing a wad of cash into Ravi's hand. But Ravi refused to accept it, saying firmly, "I did what anyone would do." This act of generosity left Arjun deeply moved. In a world where transactions were often cold and impersonal, Ravi's selflessness stood out like a beacon of hope. Before leaving, Arjun handed Ravi his business card. "If you ever need anything at all, please don't hesitate to call me. You've reminded me today that kindness still exists in this world." Ravi accepted the card with gratitude, though he doubted he'd ever use it. To him, Arjun's words felt like a polite gesture, nothing more. Little did he know, this chance encounter would soon change his life in ways he could never have imagined. As the sleek black car disappeared into the distance, its taillights fading like embers in the night, Ravi stood for a moment outside his garage, holding the business card Arjun had given him. The card was pristine, embossed with golden lettering that read, "Arjun Mehta, CEO, Innovatech Industries." It felt oddly out of place in Ravi's grease-stained hands, almost as if it belonged to another world entirely. He turned it over in his fingers, studying it closely, then tucked it into the pocket of his overalls. Deep down, he knew it was unlikely he'd ever call the number printed on it. After all, what could a poor mechanic possibly have in common with a wealthy CEO? Still, something about Arjun's sincerity lingered in Ravi's mind long after the man had driven away. The days that followed returned to their usual rhythm. Ravi woke early each morning, helped his mother prepare breakfast, and headed to the garage to tackle whatever challenges awaited him. Cars came and went, their owners bringing tales of breakdowns and mechanical woes. Life carried on much as it always had, until disaster struck. One fateful afternoon, while Ravi was working on an old tractor brought in by a local farmer, a loud crack echoed through the air. At first, he thought it might be the sound of metal snapping under pressure, but when he looked up, his heart sank. Thick plumes of smoke were billowing from the corner of the garage where faulty wiring had sparked a fire. Flames licked hungrily at the wooden beams supporting the roof, spreading faster than Ravi could react. Panic surged through him as he grabbed a nearby extinguisher and tried to douse the blaze, but it was no use. The fire roared louder, consuming everything in its path. Tools, spare parts, even the workbench he'd built with his own hands, all reduced to ash in mere minutes. Neighbors rushed to help, forming a bucket brigade to prevent the flames from spreading to nearby houses. But by the time the fire finally died down, Ravi's livelihood lay in ruins. Standing amidst the charred remains of his garage, Ravi felt a wave of despair wash over him. Everything he owned, every tool he relied on to make ends meet, was gone. For a moment he wondered how he would ever recover. How could he rebuild without money or resources? His dreams of expanding his business now seemed farther away than ever. That evening, as Ravi sat on the steps of his modest home, staring blankly at the darkened horizon, his thoughts drifted back to Arjun's business card. He remembered the CEO's parting words. If you ever need anything at all, please don't hesitate to call me. Could this really be the lifeline he so desperately needed? Or was it just a polite gesture meant to ease an awkward goodbye? After wrestling with doubt for hours, Ravi finally made up his mind. What did he have to lose? If nothing else, maybe Arjun could point him towards someone who could help. Summoning his courage, he retrieved the card from his pocket, pulled out his ancient mobile phone, and dialed the number. To Ravi's surprise, Arjun answered on the second ring. "Hello?" came the familiar voice, calm and professional, yet warm. "Mr. Mehta, sir," Ravi began hesitantly. "This is Ravi, the mechanic. You met a few months ago." There was a brief pause before Arjun replied, recognition lighting up his tone. "Ravi, of course I remember you. How are you?" Ravi swallowed hard, unsure how to explain his situation. "Sir, I'm not doing well. My garage caught fire yesterday and everything's been destroyed. I lost all my tools, my equipment, everything. I don't know what to do." For a moment, there was silence on the other end of the line. Then Arjun spoke, his voice steady and reassuring. "Ravi, listen to me. You've done more for me than you realize, and I won't forget that. Let me see what I can do to help. Can you come to the city tomorrow? We'll figure this out together." Ravi blinked in disbelief. Had he heard correctly? A stranger, a wealthy CEO no less, was offering to help him pick up the pieces of his shattered life? Gratitude welled up inside him, but so did a flicker of apprehension. What exactly did Arjun have in mind? Would he expect something in return? Pushing these doubts aside, Ravi agreed to visit the next day. Early the following morning, Ravi boarded a bus bound for the city. It was his first time leaving the small town where he'd lived his entire life, and the journey filled him with equal parts excitement and anxiety. As the bus rattled along winding roads, passing fields and factories, Ravi couldn't shake the feeling that he was stepping into uncharted territory, not just geographically, but emotionally as well. When he arrived at Innovatech Industries headquarters, Ravi was awestruck. The building was a towering glass and steel structure, gleaming under the midday sun. Employees bustled in and out, dressed in sharp suits and carrying laptops. Compared to the dusty streets of his hometown, this place felt like a different planet. Nervously clutching the directions Arjun had texted him, Ravi made his way inside. At the reception desk, a friendly young woman greeted him and escorted him to Arjun's office on the top floor. When the elevator doors opened, Ravi found himself face to face with the CEO once again. Arjun rose from his chair, extending a hand with a welcoming smile. "Ravi, thank you for coming," he said warmly. "Please, sit down." Over cups of steaming chai, Arjun listened intently as Ravi recounted the events leading up to the fire and the challenges he faced in rebuilding his business. To Ravi's relief, Arjun didn't interrupt or offer empty platitudes. Instead, he asked thoughtful questions, seeking to understand the full scope of the problem. When Ravi finished speaking, Arjun leaned back in his chair, his expression contemplative. "You're an extraordinary person, Ravi," he said after a moment. "Not many people would turn down payment for helping someone in need, especially when they're struggling themselves. That kind of integrity is rare and valuable." Ravi shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "I just did what anyone would do, sir." Arjun shook his head. "No, not everyone would, and that's why I want to propose something unconventional. Our company is working on a new line of eco-friendly vehicles, and we're looking for input from people like you, mechanics who understand cars at a grassroots level. Your perspective could be invaluable to us. Would you consider joining us as a consultant?" Ravi stared at Arjun, stunned. Him? A consultant for a major corporation? It sounded impossible, like a dream too good to be true. "But sir," he stammered, "I don't know anything about corporate work. I'm just a mechanic." "And that's exactly why we need you," Arjun replied firmly. "We already have engineers and designers. What we lack is someone who can tell us whether our ideas will actually work in real-world conditions. Someone Who knows what drivers and mechanics truly need? That's you, Ravi. For the first time in weeks, hope flickered in Ravi's chest. Maybe, just maybe, this could be the opportunity he'd been waiting for. With a deep breath, he nodded. All right. Sir, I'll give it a try. Arjun smiled, clearly pleased. Excellent. We'll start small and take things one step at a time. Don't worry. I'll guide you through the process. And if you decide it's not for you, we'll find another way to support your business. As Ravi left the office later that afternoon, his mind raced with possibilities. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to imagine a future beyond the confines of his tiny garage. Perhaps this unexpected twist of fate wasn't just about rebuilding what he'd lost. It was about building something greater than he'd ever dared to dream. Ravi's first day at Innovatech Industries began with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. As he stepped out of the taxi that had brought him to the gleaming corporate headquarters, he couldn't help but feel like an outsider. The polished, glass facade of the building reflected the morning sun, casting shimmering patterns on the pavement below. Employees in crisp suits and polished shoes hurried past him, clutching folders and tablets. Ravi adjusted his own clothes, a freshly ironed shirt borrowed from a neighbor, and took a deep breath. He reminded himself why he was here, to rebuild not just his life, but also to prove that kindness and hard work could open doors even in the most unlikely places. Inside, Arjun greeted him warmly, introducing him to a team of engineers and designers who would be working on the eco-friendly vehicle project. Everyone, Arjun announced. This is Ravi. He's joining us as a consultant to provide real-world insights into how mechanics interact with vehicles. His experience will be invaluable as we refine our designs. The room fell silent for a moment as curious eyes turned toward Ravi. Some looked intrigued, others seemed skeptical. One young engineer raised an eyebrow and whispered something to his colleague, earning a chuckle. Ravi felt the weight of their stares and forced himself to smile, though his palms were clammy with nervousness. Thank you for having me, Ravi said, addressing the group. I'm here to learn from all of you and share whatever I can about practical challenges faced by mechanics and drivers. I may not know much about corporate work, but I understand cars and people. His words broke the tension slightly, and a few members nodded in acknowledgement. Still, Ravi could sense the unspoken doubts lingering in the air. How could a mechanic from a small town contribute meaningfully to such a high-stakes project? Determined to prove them wrong, Ravi resolved to give it his best shot. Over the next few weeks, Ravi immersed himself in the world of innovation and design. Each day presented new challenges, from deciphering technical jargon during meetings to understanding complex blueprints filled with symbols he'd never seen before. At times, he felt overwhelmed, as if he were trying to climb a mountain without proper gear. But every time frustration threatened to pull him under, Arjun was there to guide him. Take your time, Ravi, Arjun reassured him one afternoon after a particularly grueling session. You don't have to master everything overnight. Just focus on sharing your perspective. That's what makes you unique. Encouraged by Arjun's support, Ravi began finding ways to adapt. He asked questions freely, no matter how basic they might seem, and scribbled notes furiously in a worn notebook he carried everywhere. Slowly but surely, he started piecing together the puzzle of modern automotive engineering. More importantly, he discovered that his hands-on experience gave him a fresh perspective that many of his highly educated colleagues lacked. One afternoon, during a brainstorming session, the team debated how to simplify the maintenance process for their prototype electric vehicle. Engineers argued over intricate details, proposing solutions that sounded impressive but impractical to Ravi's ears. Finally, unable to stay silent any longer, he spoke up. If I may say something, Ravi began hesitantly, drawing surprised glances from around the table. From my experience, the biggest challenge mechanics face isn't complexity, it's accessibility. If parts are hard to reach or tools aren't readily available, repairs become expensive and time-consuming. Maybe instead of focusing on cutting-edge technology, we should prioritize making the system easy to maintain. The room fell quiet as everyone processed his words. Then, One of the senior engineers nodded thoughtfully. He's right. We've been so focused on innovation that we forgot about usability. Let's revisit the design with this in mind. That moment marked a turning point for Ravi. For the first time, he realized that his voice mattered, not because he was formally educated, but because he brought a perspective rooted in reality. Over the following weeks, he continued offering practical suggestions, each one backed by years of hands-on experience. Whether it was recommending sturdier materials for durability or pointing out potential pitfalls in assembly processes, Ravi's contributions earned him growing respect from the team. Despite his progress, adapting to corporate culture remained a challenge. Colleagues often invited him to lunch or coffee breaks, but Ravi felt out of place among conversations about stock markets and luxury vacations. He missed the simplicity of his old life, the camaraderie of local farmers discussing crop yields, the laughter shared with fellow mechanics swapping stories over chai. Yet he refused to let feelings of isolation hold him back. Instead, he used his differences as a strength, reminding himself that diversity of thought was what made teams stronger. Outside of work, Ravi stayed grounded by staying connected to his roots. Every evening, he called home to check on his mother and sister, sharing snippets of his new life while listening to their updates. On weekends, he visited his hometown, bringing supplies and groceries for his family. Though his circumstances had changed dramatically, he vowed never to forget where he came from, or the values that had guided him through life's toughest moments. As months passed, Ravi's confidence grew. He began taking initiative, suggesting ideas during meetings without hesitation, and volunteering to test prototypes in real-world conditions. His willingness to roll up his sleeves and get his hands dirty, literally and figuratively, earned admiration from both colleagues and superiors alike. Even those who had initially doubted him came to see him as an integral part of the team. One day, Arjun called Ravi into his office for a private meeting. "I wanted to personally thank you," Arjun said, gesturing for Ravi to sit down. "Your input has been instrumental in shaping this project. Thanks to you, we've identified key improvements that will make our vehicles more reliable and user-friendly." Ravi smiled humbly. "I'm just glad I could help, sir. This has been a learning experience for me, too." Arjun leaned forward, his expression serious yet kind. "Ravi, I need to ask you something. Would you consider taking on a bigger role within the company? Not just as a consultant, but as a permanent member of our leadership team? Your insights have proven invaluable, and I believe you have the potential to grow even further." Ravi froze, stunned by the offer. Leadership? Him? The idea felt surreal, almost laughable. But then he remembered the journey that had brought him here, the fire that destroyed his garage, the leap of faith he'd taken by calling Arjun, the countless hours spent proving himself in unfamiliar territory. If there was one thing he'd learned, it was that growth often required stepping outside comfort zones. "I'll do it," Ravi replied after a long pause, his voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions inside him. "But only if you promise to keep guiding me along the way." Arjun grinned. "Deal." With that decision, Ravi embarked on a new chapter of his life, one filled with opportunities he'd never imagined possible. Yet, amidst the accolades and achievements, he remained anchored by the principles that defined him: humility, integrity, and an unwavering belief in the power of kindness. Little did he know, this was only the beginning of a transformation that would touch not just his own life, but countless others as well. Ravi's transition into a leadership role at Innovatech Industries was anything but smooth. The challenges he faced were immense, and the learning curve was steep. Every day brought new obstacles that tested his resolve, pushing him to grow in ways he never thought possible. Yet through sheer determination and an unwavering belief in himself, Ravi began to carve out a place for himself in this unfamiliar world. At first, stepping into the corporate environment felt like walking onto a stage without knowing his lines. Meetings became battlegrounds of ideas, where voices clashed and egos often took center stage. Ravi found himself struggling to keep up with the fast-paced discussions filled with technical jargon and business strategies. He wasn't used to sitting behind a desk or giving presentations on PowerPoint slides. His hands were meant for turning wrenches, not clicking computer mice. Some colleagues dismissed him outright, assuming he wouldn't last long in such a demanding setting. Others whispered behind his back, questioning how someone from a small-town garage could possibly contribute to a cutting-edge project. But Ravi refused to let their doubts define him. Instead, he leaned on the one thing that had always set him apart, his practical experience. During design reviews, when engineers debated theoretical solutions, Ravi would interject with real-world scenarios. "What happens if this part wears down faster than expected?" he'd ask. "Or what if a mechanic doesn't have access to specialized tools in rural areas? These are the kinds of questions we need to consider." His straightforward approach sometimes caught people off guard, especially those accustomed to abstract thinking. But over time, they began to see value in his perspective. One particularly memorable incident involved a prototype battery system that looked impressive on paper, but proved nearly impossible to install during field tests. When Ravi pointed out its impracticality, the team reluctantly redesigned it based on his feedback. The revised version turned out to be far more efficient and user-friendly, a win that earned Ravi significant respect. Still, adapting wasn't easy. There were moments when self-doubt crept in, whispering cruel reminders of how different he was from everyone else. At lunch breaks, while colleagues discussed exotic vacations or luxury brands, Ravi quietly ate his homemade roti and sabzi, feeling like an outsider once again. Late nights in the office left him exhausted, longing for the simplicity of his old life. Sometimes he wondered if he'd made a mistake accepting Arjun's offer. Was he really cut out for this? Yet, every time these thoughts surfaced, Ravi reminded himself why he was here. Not just for himself, but for the people who depended on him. His mother and sister needed stability. His community back home deserved opportunities. And deep down, he knew he had something unique to offer, a voice for those who weren't usually heard in boardrooms. Arjun played a crucial role in helping Ravi navigate this challenging phase. Recognizing the weight of expectations on Ravi's shoulders, Arjun became both mentor and cheerleader. He encouraged Ravi to embrace his strengths rather than trying to fit into a mold designed for others. "You don't need to change who you are," Arjun told him one evening after a particularly grueling meeting. "Your authenticity is your greatest asset. Don't lose sight of that." With Arjun's guidance, Ravi gradually gained confidence. He started speaking up more frequently, offering insights that bridged the gap between theory and practice. His ability to simplify complex concepts made him indispensable during client pitches and stakeholder meetings. Executives marveled at how effortlessly he connected with audiences, breaking down barriers with relatable anecdotes about everyday drivers and mechanics. It wasn't long before Ravi became the face of the Eco-Friendly Vehicle Initiative, representing Innovatic at industry conferences and media events. As his influence grew, so did his responsibilities. Leading a team of engineers and designers required skills Ravi hadn't developed as a mechanic. Managing deadlines, resolving conflicts, and ensuring collaboration didn't come naturally to him. There were days when frustration boiled over, when projects stalled due to miscommunication, or when team members resisted his suggestions because of their preconceived notions about his background. But instead of letting setbacks discourage him, Ravi approached them as learning opportunities. He sought advice from mentors within the company, devouring books on leadership and management whenever he had spare time. He practiced active listening, making sure every member of his team felt valued and heard. Slowly but surely, he transformed from a reluctant leader into an inspiring one. Team morale improved, productivity soared, and the project began hitting milestones ahead of schedule. Beyond his professional achievements, Ravi remained committed to staying true to his roots. He used his position to advocate for workers' rights, lobbying for better pay, and working conditions for technicians and laborers across the automotive industry. He also championed initiatives aimed at reducing environmental impact, drawing inspiration from his own experiences growing up in a resource-scarce town. Under his leadership, Innovatech launched programs to recycle old car parts and provide training for unemployed youth interested in mechanics. Perhaps most importantly, Ravi ensured that his success benefited those who mattered most: his family and community. With his newfound financial stability, he built a state-of-the-art training center in his hometown, equipping young people with the skills needed to thrive in the modern workforce. He funded scholarships for underprivileged children, including his sister Priya, who dreamed of becoming a doctor, and he fulfilled his lifelong ambition of opening a chain of affordable repair shops, offering quality service at prices everyone could afford. Through it all, Ravi stayed humble. Despite the accolades and promotions, he never forgot the values that had guided him through life's toughest moments. He treated everyone with kindness and respect, whether they were fellow executives or janitors cleaning the office floors. His story became a beacon of hope, proving that success didn't have to come at the cost of integrity. By the time the eco-friendly vehicle project reached its final stages, Ravi had earned not only the admiration of his peers, but also a reputation. As a visionary leader, the product launch was a resounding success, garnering international acclaim and positioning Innovatech as a pioneer in sustainable transportation. For Ravi, however, the true measure of achievement lay not in awards or profits, but in the lives he touched along the way. Looking back on his journey, Ravi realized that adversity had been his greatest teacher. Each challenge had forced him to dig deeper, uncovering strengths he didn't know he possessed. From the ashes of his burned-down garage to the pinnacle of corporate success, he had risen, not by forgetting where he came from, but by honoring it. And though the road ahead promised further trials, Ravi faced them with courage, knowing that resilience and compassion would continue to light his path. As the eco-friendly vehicle project reached its final stages, Ravi found himself reflecting on how far he had come. What had started as a desperate phone call to Arjun Mehta had transformed into a journey beyond his wildest dreams. The prototype vehicle, now fully developed and ready for mass production, was poised to revolutionize the automotive industry. It was efficient, affordable, and designed with mechanics and drivers in mind, a testament to Ravi's unwavering commitment to practicality and accessibility. The official launch event took place in a grand convention center in the heart of the city. Hundreds of attendees filled the hall: industry leaders, journalists, environmental activists, and government officials, all eager to witness the unveiling of Innovatech Industries' latest innovation. Giant screens displayed sleek animations of the vehicle gliding effortlessly through urban streets, while speakers highlighted its groundbreaking features: zero emissions, extended battery life, and modular components that could be easily repaired or replaced. When it was time for Ravi to take the stage, the audience erupted into applause. Clad in a neatly tailored suit, a gift from Arjun, he walked up to the podium, his heart pounding with a mix of excitement and nervousness. For a moment he stood there, scanning the sea of faces before him. Among them were colleagues who had once doubted him, friends who had supported him, and strangers whose lives he hoped to impact. Taking a deep breath, he began to speak. 10 years ago, Ravi said, his voice steady but warm, I was fixing tractors and motorcycles in a small garage in my hometown. I never imagined I'd stand here today, sharing a stage with some of the brightest minds in the world. But this isn't just my story. It's a story about what happens when we choose to see value in every person, no matter where they come from. He went on to describe the challenges he faced along the way: the fire that destroyed his garage, the skepticism he encountered in the corporate world, and the moments of doubt that almost made him give up. But he also spoke about the power of kindness, perseverance, and collaboration. He thanked Arjun for believing in him, his team for embracing his ideas, and his family for keeping him grounded. By the time he finished speaking, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. The success of the eco-friendly vehicle catapulted Innovatech Industries to new heights. Orders poured in from across the globe, and media outlets hailed the company as a leader in sustainable technology. For Ravi, however, the greatest reward wasn't fame or fortune. It was seeing the tangible impact of his work. Mechanics praised the vehicle's user-friendly design, Drivers appreciated its affordability, and environmentalists celebrated its contribution to reducing carbon footprints. Every positive review felt like validation of the principles he had always lived by: hard work, empathy, and innovation rooted in real-world needs. In recognition of his extraordinary contributions, Arjun promoted Ravi to a senior leadership position within the company. More than just a title, this role gave Ravi a platform to drive meaningful change. He spearheaded initiatives aimed at uplifting marginalized communities, advocating for policies that supported small businesses and skilled workers. Under his guidance, Innovatech partnered with local governments to establish vocational training centers, equipping young people with the tools they needed to succeed in the modern economy. These efforts not only created jobs but also fostered a sense of pride and purpose among participants. Ravi also used his influence to champion causes close to his heart. He launched a foundation dedicated to funding education and healthcare programs in rural areas, inspired by the struggles he had witnessed growing up. Through scholarships, free medical camps, and infrastructure development projects, he sought to break the cycle of poverty that had once trapped his own family. His sister, Priya, now studying medicine thanks to one of these scholarships, often joked that her brother was turning into a superhero. Despite his achievements, Ravi remained deeply connected to his roots. Every weekend he returned to his hometown, where he continued overseeing the chain of affordable repair shops he had established. These shops weren't just businesses. They were community hubs where people gathered to share stories, seek advice, and find solutions to their problems. Ravi made it a point to visit each location regularly, rolling up his sleeves to assist mechanics and interact with customers. To him, this hands-on involvement was a reminder of why he had embarked on this journey in the first place. One evening, as Ravi sat outside his mother's home sipping chai, she looked at him with tears in her eyes. "You've done so much for us, Beta," she said softly. "Your father would have been so proud." Ravi smiled, placing a reassuring hand on hers. "It's not just me, Amma. None of this would have been possible without the support of everyone around me, from Arjun, sir, to our neighbors back home. Success isn't something you achieve alone. It's something you build together." His words reflected a profound truth he had come to understand. True fulfillment came not from personal glory, but from lifting others up. This philosophy guided every decision he made, whether it was mentoring young engineers at Innovatech or helping a struggling farmer fix his tractor in his hometown. People admired Ravi, not just for his accomplishments, but for the humility and compassion with which he carried himself. Meanwhile, Arjun too had undergone a transformation. Watching Ravi rise from adversity to become a leader of unparalleled integrity had left an indelible mark on him. As CEO, he began adopting a more empathetic approach to leadership, prioritizing employee well-being and social responsibility alongside profit margins. Together, he and Ravi collaborated on numerous projects aimed at creating a better future, not just for their company, but for society as a whole. Their partnership became a shining example of what could be achieved when two individuals from vastly different worlds united around a shared vision. While Arjun provided resources and strategic direction, Ravi ensured that every initiative stayed grounded in reality, addressing the needs of ordinary people. Their bond transcended professional boundaries, evolving into a friendship built on mutual respect and admiration. As months turned into years, Ravi's legacy continued to grow. Schools named scholarships after him, villages celebrated festivals in his honor, and aspiring entrepreneurs sought his guidance. Yet, despite all the accolades, Ravi remained the same humble mechanic at heart. He still drove a modest car, preferring simplicity over extravagance, and spent his free time tinkering with engines or playing cricket with neighborhood kids. For Ravi, success wasn't measured by wealth or titles. It was measured by the smiles on people's faces, the opportunities he created, and the lives he touched. And though his journey had taken him farther than he ever imagined, he knew that the road ahead held even greater possibilities. With gratitude in his heart and determination in his stride, Ravi embraced whatever lay beyond the horizon, ready to keep paying it forward one act of kindness at a time. Years had passed since that fateful evening when Ravi first met Arjun Mehta on a dusty roadside. Life had taken him on an incredible journey, from the ashes of his burned-down garage to the pinnacle of corporate success. But now, as he drove down the same road where it all began, Ravi felt a deep sense of gratitude wash over him. The sleek black luxury car he was driving now seemed almost symbolic, a stark contrast to the modest tools and grease-stained overalls that once defined his existence. Yet despite the trappings of wealth and status, Ravi knew he was still the same man at heart, humble, hardworking, and driven by a desire to make a difference. As he approached the spot where his old garage used to stand, Ravi slowed the car to a stop. What had once been a charred ruin was now a vibrant community center bustling with activity. Children played cricket in the courtyard, their laughter echoing through the air, while adults gathered under shaded awnings for skill-building workshops and vocational training sessions. This transformation was one of Ravi's proudest achievements, a testament to how far he'd come and the impact he'd made on the lives of others. Stepping out of the car, Ravi walked toward the center, greeted warmly by familiar faces. Many of these people had known him since his early days as a struggling mechanic, and they embraced him like family. Some shared stories of how his initiatives had changed their lives, how scholarships had allowed their children to attend school, how job training programs had given them stable careers, and how affordable repair shops had saved them from financial hardship. Listening to their words, Ravi couldn't help but reflect on the ripple effect of kindness and determination. Later that evening, as he sat alone on a bench overlooking the newly built playground, Ravi thought about the chain of events that had brought him here. If not for that chance encounter with Arjun, would he still be trapped in the cycle of poverty and struggle? Or would fate have found another way to guide him toward his destiny? These questions lingered in his mind, but one thing was certain. Every act of generosity, no matter how small, had the potential to spark monumental change. Arjun, too, had been profoundly impacted by their relationship. Over the years, the CEO had grown increasingly introspective, realizing that true leadership wasn't just about profits or innovation. It was about empathy, compassion, and leaving a lasting legacy. Inspired by Ravi's unwavering commitment to helping others, Arjun had transformed Innovatech Industries into a beacon of social responsibility. From funding green energy projects to supporting underserved communities, the company became synonymous with positive change. Their friendship remained a cornerstone of both their lives. While Ravi continued to lead initiatives aimed at uplifting marginalized groups, Arjun provided strategic support and resources, ensuring their efforts reached as many people as possible. Together, they launched programs that addressed some of society's most pressing challenges: unemployment, education inequality, and environmental degradation. Their collaboration served as a powerful reminder that partnerships between individuals from different walks of life could create extraordinary outcomes. One of their most ambitious projects involved establishing a network of innovation hubs across rural India. These hubs were designed to empower local entrepreneurs by providing access to cutting-edge technology, mentorship, and funding. Farmers learned how to use drones for precision agriculture. Artisans discovered ways to market their crafts globally, and young inventors developed solutions to problems unique to their communities. Each hub became a catalyst for progress, fostering creativity and resilience among participants. Ravi often visited these hubs, eager to see firsthand the impact of their work. On one such trip, he met a young girl named Mira, who dreamed of becoming an engineer. Her father, a farmer, had struggled to make ends meet until Innovatech's agricultural program taught him sustainable farming techniques. Now, with her family's finances stabilized, Mira attended school regularly and excelled in science. When she shyly showed Ravi a model wind turbine she had built using scrap materials, his eyes welled up with pride. "You remind me of myself when I was your age," Ravi told her gently. "Never stop believing in yourself, Mira. You have the power to change the world." Moments like these reaffirmed Ravi's belief in the importance of paying it forward. Every scholarship awarded, every workshop conducted, and every dream nurtured was a step toward building a brighter future. not just for individuals but for entire communities. He knew that true success wasn't measured by personal achievements, but by the opportunities created for others to thrive. Back in the city, Ravi's role at Innovatech evolved further. As a senior leader, he championed policies that prioritized inclusivity and sustainability. Under his guidance, the company expanded its eco-friendly vehicle line, introducing models tailored specifically for rural areas. These vehicles were affordable, durable, and easy to maintain, addressing the unique needs of farmers, small business owners, and remote villages. Mechanics trained through Ravi's programs played a crucial role in servicing and repairing these vehicles, creating a ripple effect of economic growth. Despite his demanding schedule, Ravi never lost sight of what mattered most. He returned home every weekend to spend time with his mother and sister, savoring simple joys like homemade meals and evening strolls. Priya, now a doctor, often joined him in organizing health camps in underserved regions, combining their skills to improve lives. Their bond remained unshakable, a testament to the strength of family ties even amidst life's whirlwind changes. As Ravi looked back on his journey, he realized that adversity had been his greatest teacher. The fire that destroyed his garage might have seemed like the end of everything, but in hindsight, it was the beginning of something far greater. It taught him resilience, humility, and the value of staying true to oneself. And it reminded him that sometimes the smallest gestures, like fixing a stranger's car without expecting anything in return, could lead to unimaginable transformations. The story of Ravi and Arjun became a source of inspiration for countless people around the world. Newspapers wrote articles about their partnership, calling it a blueprint for bridging divides between privilege and poverty. Schools included their tale in textbooks, teaching students about the power of empathy and collaboration. Social media buzzed with hashtags celebrating their achievements, sparking conversations about how ordinary people could drive extraordinary change. Yet for Ravi, the true measure of success lay not in headlines or accolades, but in the everyday moments that reminded him why he started this journey. Whether it was watching a child smile after receiving a new bicycle, seeing a farmer harvest a bountiful crop thanks to modern techniques, or hearing a young mechanic proudly share his latest invention, these were the moments that filled Ravi's heart with joy. In the end, Ravi's story was more than just a rags-to-riches tale. It was a testament to the enduring power of kindness, integrity, and perseverance. It proved that no matter where you came from or what challenges you faced, you had the ability to shape your own destiny, and in doing so inspire others to do the same. As Ravi gazed at the setting sun, casting golden light over the community center he had helped build, he felt a profound sense of peace. His journey may have begun with a single act of kindness, but it had grown into a movement that would continue long after he was gone, and so, the legacy of a poor mechanic's kindness lived on, not just in the lives he touched directly, but in the countless others who carried forward his spirit of compassion and hope. For Ravi, there was no greater reward than knowing he had made the world a little brighter, one act of kindness at a time.